The security guard's meaty hand landed on Jamal's shoulder like a guillotine, and the dealership's glass doors slammed shut before Ty could even spit out a protest. "You're not buying a car here. Kids get lost," the manager sneered, his voice dripping with the kind of venom that made your skin crawl. Jamal, 17, wiry, with a fade so sharp it could cut glass, froze mid-step on the polished showroom floor. His younger brother Ty, 16, all lanky limbs and restless energy, clutched the brochure for a Bentley Continental GT so tight the paper crumpled. They'd spent weeks planning this visit, pooling their summer job cash to put a deposit on their dream car, to own it. Not yet, but to prove they could. To prove they belonged in a place like Elite Motors, where the air smelled of leather and money, and every glance from the staff screamed, "You don't fit here." The brothers had walked in with their heads high, wearing clean Nikes and button-ups their mom ironed that morning. Jamal had rehearsed his pitch. He'd ask about financing, warranties, the works, like he'd seen in YouTube videos about car buying. Ty, the dreamer, had already pictured himself behind the wheel, cruising past their crumbling Detroit neighborhood, windows down, bass thumping. But the manager, a paunchy white guy named Greg with a comb over that wasn't fooling anyone, didn't even let them get a word out. "We don't do charity cases," Greg said, loud enough for the other customers, mostly older, mostly Witeto turn and stare. The guards hustled them out so fast Jamal's sneaker squeaked on the marble, and Ty's brochure fluttered to the ground like a shot bird. Outside, the August heat hit them like a slap. Jamal's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. Ty kicked a pebble across the lot, his eyes burning with tears he refused to let fall. "We didn't do nothing," Ty muttered, voice cracking. "Why they gotta treat us like that?" Jamal didn't answer. He couldn't. The humiliation sat in his chest like a brick, heavy and sharp. He grabbed Ty's arm and pulled him toward the bus stop, ignoring the curious glances from passers-by. The dealership's neon sign buzzed behind them, mocking, "Elite Motors, drive your dreams." That night, their mom, Lena, noticed the silence at dinner. She was a nurse, tough as steel but soft where it counted, raising 2 boys alone since their dad left when Ty was a baby. "What's wrong?" she asked, setting down her fork. Jamal shrugged, poking at his mashed potatoes. Ty stared at his plate. Lena's eyes narrowed. "Don't lie to me. What happened?" When Jamal finally spilled the story, halting and low, Lena's face hardened. She didn't cry or yell. She just said, "Tomorrow we fix this." "Die Frauen." "How, ma? They don't care about us." Lena's lips curved into a small, fierce smile. "Oh, they will." The next morning, Jamal woke to the sound of a car engine purring outside their duplex, a sound so smooth it didn't belong on their street of potholes and sagging porches. He stumbled to the window, Ty right behind him, and froze. A Rolls-Royce Phantom, black as midnight, gleamed in the driveway. The driver's door opened, and a man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, with a tailored suit and a presence that made the air feel heavier. His skin was the same deep brown as theirs, his eyes sharp and unreadable. Jamal's breath caught. Ty whispered, "Who's that?" Lena appeared behind them, arms crossed, her smile wider now. "Boys," she said. "Meet your father." Marcus Wright wasn't just a man. He was a myth in Detroit, a billionaire who'd risen from nothing to build a tech empire that rivaled Silicon Valley giants. Rumors swirled about him. He'd left the city years ago. He was untouchable. He didn't care about anyone but himself. Jamal and Ty had grown up hearing his name in whispers, never knowing he was the dad who'd vanished before they could remember his face. Now here he was, standing in their driveway like he'd never left. Marcus didn't hug them or make small talk. He looked at Jamal, then Ty, and said, "Get dressed. We're going back to that dealership." His voice was calm, but there was steel in it, the kind that made you listen. Jamal's stomach twisted. Ty's eyes widened. For real? Marcus nodded. For real. An hour later, the Rolls-Royce rolled into Elite Motors' lot, its presence sucking the air out of the place. Customers stopped mid-conversation. Salesmen froze, jaws slack. Greg, the manager, was outside, schmoozing with a client, when he saw the car. His smile faltered, then vanished as Marcus stepped out, followed by Jamal and Ty. The brothers wore their same button-ups, but something in their posture had shifted, shoulders back, chins up, like they'd borrowed some of Marcus's gravity. Greg hurried over, his face a mask of fake warmth. "Mr. Wright, sir, what an honor." Marcus cut him off with a raised hand. "You don't know me," he said, voice low and dangerous. "But you know my sons." He gestured to Jamal and Ty, who stood like soldiers at his side. Greg's eyes darted between them, confusion giving way to panic as the pieces clicked. I didn't realize," he stammered. "Didn't realize what?" Marcus stepped closer, towering over Greg. "That they were mine? Or that they deserved respect?" The lot was silent now, every eye on the showdown. Jamal's heart pounded, but he kept his face blank. Ty's hands balled into fists, his earlier hurt replaced by something fiercer. Greg's mouth opened, then closed, like a fish gasping on land. Marcus didn't raise his voice, but every word landed like a hammer. "You threw my boys out yesterday, humiliated them. Because of what? The color of their skin? Their age? Their clothes?" He leaned in, his gaze boring into Greg's. "Tell me, Greg, what gave you the right?" Greg's face flushed red, then pale. "It was a misunderstanding, sir. We have policies." Marcus laughed, a cold, cutting sound. "Policies? Save it. I'm not here for excuses. I'm here to show you what you missed." He turned to Jamal and Ty. "Boys, pick a car. Any car." Jamal blinked, sure he'd misheard. Ty's jaw dropped. "What?" Marcus's eyes softened, just for a moment. "You heard me. Pick one. It's yours." The brothers exchanged a glance, disbelief warring with excitement. They walked into the showroom, Greg trailing uselessly behind, his authority crumbling with every step. Customers whispered. Phones came out, recording the scene. Jamal's eyes landed on the Bentley Continental GT, the same one from the brochure Ty had clutched. Ty followed his gaze and grinned, the first real smile since yesterday's disaster. "That one," Jamal said, pointing. Marcus nodded. "Good choice." He turned to Greg, who looked like he might faint. "Draw up the papers. Full cash payment. Now." Greg scrambled to comply, barking orders at his staff, his hands shaking. The showroom buzzed with tension, but for Jamal and Ty, it was something else, vindication, sharp and sweet. As the paperwork was prepared, Marcus pulled the brothers aside. "This isn't about the car," he said quietly. "It's about you. You're worth more than their prejudice, more than their small minds. Don't ever let anyone make you feel less." Jamal nodded, his throat tight. Ty swallowed hard, his eyes shining. For the first time, they saw their father, not the myth, but the man. But the story didn't end there. Word of the confrontation spread like wildfire, first through Detroit, then beyond. Social media exploded with videos of Marcus's takedown. Hashtags like Justice at Elite Motors trending nationwide. Elite Motors issued a public apology, but the damage was done. Customers boycotted, sponsors pulled funding, and Greg was quietly fired, his career in ruins. The brothers' Bentley became a symbol, parked proudly in their driveway, a reminder that they'd faced hate and won. Yet the victory felt hollow to Jamal. Driving the Bentley was a thrill, sure, but the stares from neighbors, the whispers at school, some proud, Some jealous made him uneasy. He started noticing things he hadn't before. The way cops lingered near their block. The way store clerks followed Ty when they shopped. The dealership incident wasn't a one-off. It was a symptom of something bigger, something that no amount of money could erase. One night, Jamal found Marcus in the living room, staring at old photos of Lena and the boys. "Why'd you leave?" Jamal asked the question he'd held back for weeks. Marcus sighed, his shoulders sagging. "I thought I was protecting you," he said. "I was young, broke, in trouble. I thought you'd be better off without me." He looked at Jamal, eyes raw. "I was wrong." Jamal didn't know how to respond. Part of him wanted to yell, to demand answers for every missed birthday, every night Lena cried alone. But another part saw the pain in Marcus's face and recognized the same pain he'd felt at the dealership, the same pain Ty hid behind his jokes. They were all carrying it in different ways. The next day, Marcus announced a new initiative, a foundation to support Black youth in Detroit, offering scholarships, mentorship, and legal aid for those facing discrimination. He asked Jamal and Ty to help run it. "This is your fight now," he told them. "Not just for you, but for every kid like you." Ty, usually the skeptic, nodded eagerly. Jamal hesitated, then agreed. The Bentley was nice, but this felt like purpose. Months later, the brothers stood at a community center, speaking to a room full of teens about their experience. Jamal's voice shook at first, but grew stronger. "They tried to break us," he said, "but we're still here, and we're not going anywhere." The crowd erupted in cheers, Ty grinning beside him. In the back, Marcus watched, a quiet pride in his eyes. Lena squeezed his hand, her smile saying what words couldn't. The Rolls-Royce still sat in the driveway, a reminder of the day everything changed. But for Jamal and Ty, the real victory wasn't the car or the headlines. It was the knowledge that they could face the world's ugliness and come out stronger, together. And in a city where dreams often died young, that was worth more than all the money in the world. The community center's fluorescent lights buzzed softly as Jamal finished his speech, his voice echoing in the packed room. The teens in the audience, some younger than Ty, others older than Jamal, leaned forward in their folding chairs, hanging on every word. Ty stepped up next, his usual swagger tempered by something new resolve. "We're not just here to tell our story," he said, scanning the crowd. "We're here to make sure it don't happen to you." The applause was deafening, a wave of energy that made the brothers stand taller. In the back, Marcus nodded once, his face unreadable but his eyes bright with something close to redemption. The foundation, named Rise Up Detroit, became their new battleground. Marcus funded it with millions, but Jamal and Ty gave it heart. They organized workshops on financial literacy, teaching kids how to navigate systems that often shut them out. They brought in lawyers to talk about rights, counselors to talk about trauma, and entrepreneurs to talk about dreams. Jamal, who'd always been the quieter brother, found his voice leading discussions. Ty, with his quick wit, became a magnet for the younger kids, cracking jokes that made tough topics easier to swallow. Lena watched it all with a pride that softened her usual steel, though she never let the boys forget who kept the family grounded. But the work wasn't easy. The dealership incident had lit a fire, but it also exposed fault lines. Some in the community saw the brothers as heroes, others as sellouts who'd only won because of their dad's money. At school, Jamal overheard classmates muttering, "They think they're big shots now with that Bentley." Ty got at worse kids he'd grown up with, played ball with, started icing him out, calling him bougie behind his back. One day, a kid named Dre, who'd been Ty's best friend since 5th grade, cornered him by the lockers. "You forgot where you came from, man," Dre said, his voice low and bitter.
"'Tis green faltered."
"I'm still me," he shot back, but Dre was already walking away. The brothers didn't talk about it much, but the weight was there. Jamal started staying up late, scrolling through X, where the viral video of their showdown with Greg still racked up views. The comments were a minefield. Some praised their courage, others called them entitled, and a few too many spewed the same hate they'd faced at Elite Motors. "Money don't change who you are," one read. Jamal wanted to type back, "You're right, it doesn't. But it shouldn't have to." He never hit send. Instead, he poured his energy into the foundation, determined to prove the haters wrong. Marcus, meanwhile, was a puzzle. He showed up for every meeting, every event, but there was a distance in him, like he was still making up for lost years. One evening, after a long day at the community center, he found Jamal alone, organizing flyers for a scholarship drive. "You're good at this," Marcus said, leaning against the doorframe. Jamal shrugged, not meeting his eyes. "Just doing what needs doing." Marcus hesitated, then sat down across from him. "I know I wasn't here," he said, voice low. "I know I can't fix that, but I see you now, Jamal. You and Tyree better than I ever was." Jamal's hands stilled on the flyers. He wanted to believe Marcus, wanted to bridge the gap between the father he'd imagined and the man sitting there. But trust was hard, and the hurt ran deep. "Why now?" he asked finally. "Why come back after all this time?" Marcus exhaled, rubbing a hand over his face. "I built an empire to prove I was enough," he said. "But when I heard what happened to you and Ty at that dealership, I realized I'd failed the one thing that mattered. You." He paused, eyes searching Jamal's. "I'm here now because I want to be the father you deserve, not the one I was." The words hit Jamal hard, cracking open something he'd kept locked away. He didn't cry, he was too stubborn for that, but he nodded, and that was enough for now. Ty, when Jamal told him later, just snorted. "Man's got away with words. I'll give him that." But there was a softness in Ty's eyes, a crack in his armor, too. As Rise Up Detroit grew, so did the scrutiny. A local news outlet ran a story questioning Marcus's motives, hinting he was using the foundation to clean up his image. "Billionaire's redemption arc or PR stunt?" The headline read. Jamal and Ty felt the sting, but Marcus brushed it off. "Let them talk," he told the brothers. "Results speak louder than headlines." And the results were undeniable. Dozens of kids got scholarships, families got legal help, and the community center became a hub where hope outshone despair. Still, the world outside wasn't changing fast enough. One afternoon, Jamal and Ty were driving the Bentley to a foundation event when a cop pulled them over. The officer, a white guy with a buzz cut, approached with a hand on his holster. "Where'd you get this car?" he asked, eyes narrowed. Jamal's grip tightened on the wheel. Ty's jaw clenched, but he kept quiet, remembering their mom's rule. "Don't give them a reason." Jamal explained, voice steady, that the car was theirs, bought legally. The cop ran their plates, checked their IDs, and let them go with a grudging, "Watch your speed." As they drove off, Ty muttered, "Same old, same old." Jamal didn't reply, but the knot in his stomach didn't loosen until they reached the event. That incident lit a new fire in Jamal. He proposed a campaign through Rise Up Detroit, a series of town halls where kids could share their stories of discrimination, from school suspensions to store profiling to police stops. The first event packed the community center to the rafters. Teens, parents, even a few teachers spoke out, their voices raw and unfiltered. One girl, barely 14, talked about being followed in a mall, her voice shaking but defiant. An older man shared how he'd been denied a job decades ago for looking wrong. Ty, usually the joker, listened in silence, his hands fidgeting. Jamal took notes, already planning how to turn their words into action. The town halls caught the attention of a national civil rights group, which offered to partner with Rise Up Detroit. Marcus was skeptical. Big organizations often brought red tape, but Jamal pushed for it. "We need allies," he told his father. "This isn't just about us anymore." Marcus relented, and the partnership brought resources. Lawyers, media contacts, even a documentary crew. The crew followed Jamal and Ty for weeks, capturing their work, their fights, their quiet moments of doubt. When the documentary aired, it went viral, not just in Detroit but across the country. People started calling them the Bentley Brothers, a nickname Ty loved and Jamal tolerated. But fame had a price. The more visible they became, the more pushback they faced. A rival dealership, trying to capitalize on Elite Motors' downfall, invited the brothers to a partnership event, only for it to be a thinly veiled photo op. Jamal saw through it and declined. But Ty, ever the optimist, wanted to give them a chance. "Maybe they're different," he said. They weren't. The event was a circus of fake smiles and staged handshakes, and Ty came home fuming. "Never again," he told Jamal, who just nodded. Lesson learned. As winter hit Detroit, the foundation faced its biggest test. A local politician, running for re-election, tried to shut down one of their after-school programs, claiming it promoted division. The real reason, everyone knew, was the politician's ties to developers who wanted the community center's land. Marcus offered to fight it with his lawyers, but Jamal and Ty had another idea. A protest. They rallied hundreds teens, parents, even some of Elite Motors' former customers to march on City Hall. The sight of Jamal and Ty leading the crowd, megaphones in hand, made the evening news. The politician backed down and the program was saved. By spring, Rise Up Detroit was a force, not just in the city but beyond. Jamal and Ty were invited to speak at a national conference on racial justice, their first time leaving Michigan. Standing on that stage, Jamal looked out at the sea of faces, black, white, young, old, and felt the weight of everything they'd built. Ty, beside him, cracked a joke about the Bentley's gas mileage, easing the tension. The crowd laughed, then listened as the brothers told their story, not just of the dealership but of everything since. The pain, the pride, the purpose. Back home, the brothers sat with Lena and Marcus, watching the conference footage on TV. Lena wiped her eyes, pretending it was just dust. Marcus, quieter than usual, said, "You boys are changing the world." Jamal shook his head. "Not yet," he said, "but we're trying. And we got a dope car while we're at it." The Rolls-Royce and the Bentley still sat in the driveway, symbols of a victory that was only the beginning. The brothers knew the fight against prejudice was far from over, but they also knew they weren't alone. They had each other, their mom, their dad, and a community that was starting to believe in itself again. The world could be cruel, but it could also be changed one story, one fight, one step at a time. What do you think? Where does justice begin? And how do we confront the divides that tear us apart? Share your thoughts, because this story isn't just theirs, it's ours.